Four, three, two, and one. We are live. Hello and welcome to PropTechBuzz, a business podcast where we talk to PropTech founders and CEOs from all over the globe and learn from them how they build and manage successful PropTech companies. Today we have an exciting guest with us, Dinesh Malkani, who is the founder of Smarten Spaces. But before we formally welcome him to our show, I would request all my listeners out here who have been repeat listeners as well to hit that like and subscribe button, because the more people subscribe to our content, the reach of our podcast is wider, because prop tech is anyways a niche sector, and it would I would appreciate if you can follow us more and spread the word out. We are also on audio podcast on Spotify. So if you prefer listening on audio only, go to Spotify and search for PropTechBuzz. And once you find us, just hit that follow button there and leave a review if you like the content. So we have some exciting guests coming in the coming days as well. And talking about exciting guests, we have Dinesh. Dinesh is the founder and CEO of Smarten Spaces. As I mentioned, he has been Forbes Technology Council, and he Smarten Spaces is the global SaaS company that offers a suite of solutions for the hybrid workplace. And for more on what Smarten Spaces is, we'll ask Dinesh to inform us. With that, let's welcome Dinesh. Dinesh, welcome to PropTechBuzz. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Ravi. Thank you for inviting me. I'm excited about this conversation. So, looking forward to this.
Yeah, so same here. We are eager to have this conversation with you, Dinesh. But before we get into the meatier stuff of what Smarten Spaces is, why don't we learn a little bit about your background briefly and your career trajectory and your transition story of building Smarten Spaces?
Yeah, so, Ravi, I've been involved in the tech business for a long time. And basically, my first job when I passed out of my engineering was in the R&D, right? I was actually involved very closely with HCL Technologies, and I was part of a team that built India's first public voicemail system, right?
Oh, wow.
And at that time, it was a big hit. It was a big achievement and accomplishment. And having spent so many years in R&D, that bug of building a product never really goes away, right? So, but post that, I spent almost 13, 14 years with the AT&T, Lucent, and Avaya family. I joined AT&T, it became Lucent, it became Avaya, but really, it was 14 years, same company, just changing names. And last, when I left, I was the country president for Avaya China. So I've spent time in India, Singapore, South Korea, and China. So I got a lot of varied Asian experience. I subsequently joined Jabra, a great company, and look, I used to head their Asia Pacific business. And in a few years, I joined Cisco and spent 7 years with Cisco. Part of it was running the collaboration business. It's tools like this, WebEx and others. That's what I used to manage, based in Singapore. And then I came to India and was the country president for India for Cisco for almost 4 years, up until 2017. But like I said, that bug of building your own product stayed on. So while I loved my corporate life for so many years, I knew the time had come for me to make the transition. And as you know, I lived in Bangalore, and everybody I used to meet used to say, "Oh, great, you work for a corporate, but really, why aren't you building your own company? And why aren't you an entrepreneur? Or why aren't you running your own startup?" So I kind of, always felt I had it in me. It's not an easy transition.
Hmm.
But now, 6 years on, having run Smart in Spaces, I look back and never regret that decision. I think it was a great one. And I'm always super pumped up and excited with all the ups and downs of, what a entrepreneurial journey offers, but clearly a very fulfilling journey so far. So,
What's the biggest difference leading big corporates as in the leadership team, and then building something from scratch and still leading it? But do you think that the leadership in a startup and in a big corporate are different?
oh, totally. Yeah. I think, Ravi, when you work in a corporate, you don't worry about money. You don't worry about the fact that, oh, yeah, you get a budget and you're expected to work within the budget. You still have growth goals, etc. But honestly, when you work in a startup, right, you have to think about 30 metrics that you never bothered about, right?
Mm,
From being able to establish a brand, to being able to make sure the product market fit is right. I
mm,
came from Cisco where product market fit was already there, right? But in a startup, you have to get product market fit right. You have to understand the pain points businesses are going through literally on an everyday basis, because things move very quickly, right? In our space, you have to worry about cash flows, you got to worry about EBITDA, and there's so much that you think about when you run your own company. It's very, very different from the whole corporate setup. So that's really been the fundamental difference. It does mature you a lot, and quite frankly makes you take a multi-dimension approach to actually what technology really means and what pain points and problems it can solve. And also, honestly, speed and agility, right? You think of a problem statement, and you feel that this is going to add tremendous value. You don't have to think about it a lot or go through many hoops, right? You can make that decision and say, you know what, let's get it done, right?
right,
Let's take the risk, let's get it done.
right,
9 out of 10 things will work, but there will always be things that will be challenging, and maybe the customer feels that they don't see the ROI around it, or the market may have changed, right?
right, right.
So
No,
these are some of the fundamental differences, I feel.
and how much of these skills are transferable from your previous experience, and how what percentage of the skills are to be acquired in new or afresh?
I would say you transfer about 20 to 30% of what you learn. Yeah,
Okay,
and somebody told me one day, he said, "Oh, you're off the corporate treadmill." I said, "Yeah, I'm off the corporate treadmill, but I'm on the F1 track of what a startup is all about." So you transfer 20 to 30%.
right,
Obviously, your network, your learnings in terms of understanding business plans, but it's a whole lot of unlearning, and it's a lot of relearning,
right, correct.
it's a massive transition. And I would say usually corporate to startup takes at least couple of years for you to really start getting it right.
Got it. So let's talk about your transition story of Smarten Spaces, and this is the most exciting conversation I have with any startup founder. Okay, how do they, out of all hundreds of ideas that play into your mind, how do you zero in on that one idea where you are willing to dedicate at least 10 years of your life?
Yeah. So, quite frankly, you can, I mean, just in your own DNA, right? You can either go after an area which is established and you want to be one more player, right?
Mhm.
Like today, if I was to set up an e-commerce business as an example, well, e-commerce has been around for a while. And so you look for a unique business model in that space, and you get better at doing, or you play in a subset. That's one way of approaching it. The second way of approaching it is you go after a brand new area, right? And you're convinced that if you crystal ball 4 5 years ahead and you say, you know what, I feel the market's moving in that direction. I feel that technology adoption may be low today, or what a startup has to offer may be low, but it will grow over time. And I want to traverse the journey. That's the approach I took, right? The world of hybrid workplaces didn't exist like 5 years ago, 6 years ago when we started out, right? We conceptualized and we said that people will work in a flex manner, they'll work from anywhere, they will cut costs, employees will need that experience. And we built something, and guess what? 5 years in, that's what everybody needs, right?
Mm,
Today. And so you can bet on something. Now it can turn around the other way. But see, the good thing is, Ravi, directionally, that's where you want to go. But along the way, you keep pivoting. If you
mm,
don't pivot, if you're very rigid on your idea, I think you miss out, on a lot of opportunities that may exist. And one thing I learned in a startup is you gotta keep pivoting. You gotta keep, you have to have a pulse of the market. You have to meet your customers, read enough articles, you have to meet partners, and that'll give you a general sense of what people are thinking about,
right,
and will help you plan. But you have to plan a couple of years out.
got it.
You
So
can't think only of today.
are you saying what you intended to build in the beginning and what eventually is today, there has been a lot of pivot on the way? Is that how it is?
Interestingly, the way we got it done, there was a pivot, but the pain point that we
Right.
identified, fortunately, and COVID had a little bit to do with it, is the same.
So
You
what is
know,
the pain
we
point? What was the pain point that
Yeah.
you are solving today?
So it's interesting. At that time, our theory was that, and when I was at Cisco, I used to walk around the room or go to meet some of my clients. I would find 30-40% of the office spaces to be empty, right? So if there were 1,000 desks that were there, at any given point in time, only 60% would be occupied, right? So the
Hmm.
first thing that struck my head was, why are people spending so much money on space that they are not using effectively?
Hmm.
And it was a pure PNL simple conversation, but most people didn't know what is their utilization, right? How much space do I have? How much is being used? At what point in time do people come in? There was also this world of, I have a fixed desk and it's mine.
Hmm.
If you look at, and I still remember at that time we said, you look at Uber, right? You don't own the car, it's not yours, but you can get access to it anytime you want to. You look
Right.
at Airbnb, it's the same model. So why not the same thing in spaces, which helps you then share the spaces you have much more efficiently and effectively,
Mhm.
and it'll save you cost. So that was the pain point that we wanted to solve for. The
Got it.
second thing we wanted to do was that, look, an employee that comes in does 10 things in a day, and I found a lot of people doing this manually, right? I have visitors coming, I
Hmm.
have, I want a meeting room, I want to go to the cafeteria, but I've got to queue up. I'm in the building and I look for parking, but I keep going round and round trying to find it. So I found all these manual processes, right?
Right.
Or, oh, it's pretty cold in this room. So I call somebody up and I say, hey, can you, help with trying to kind of adjust the air conditioning?
Right.
The concept was, why don't we automate all of this and make the life of an employee, deliver the experience of an employee, right? And solve it for them. So these were the two pain points that we identified that we were trying to solve.
Got it.
And that
Effective utilization of spaces and any kind of problems that are associated with the spaces for the end user, which is the user of
Yeah,
the
that's
space.
correct, Ravi. And honestly, I think that in a hybrid world, this has become a must-have,
Hmm.
because people are, really rethinking about their spaces. I know for a fact that almost every client we work with or every conversation we have now, it's pretty clear. People are saying, "Hey, I don't need so much space. I'm going to cut out 25% or 30% of my space." And people are anyway working in hybrid, so the days they come to office, they use the space, but not everybody comes to office at the same time, right?
Hmm.
So the business problem of cutting space becomes much easier, and people are making very bold decisions, right? People are making very bold decisions. I think they are currently working on saving a fair bit. And for an employee who work in hybrid, that's where the software becomes useful, right? I mean, if
Hmm.
I'm coming and you're my colleague, Ravi, I will come when you're in the office on the same.
Hmm.
I'll try and sync up with you, right? To through the software to say, okay, well, let me see what days Ravi is. Where is Ravi sitting? I want to sit next to Ravi. And by the way, if I'm coming to office, I work from home. I tend to have more meetings when I'm back because I want to collaborate with my colleagues. So
Hmm.
the demand for rooms has gone up. So problem statement is the same, but how we kind of got there, the needs, that has evolved over time. And today, I think it's a super hot topic, right? Within prop tech, the evolution of workspaces is a super hot topic right now.
Got it. I could go on the problem space, but let's shift on the solution space, because being a product manager myself, my favorite topic is discovery. Okay, how do you crack the code of the pain point? But I'll hold on to that, and let's talk about the solution space. Okay, so what's the solution looking like today, and how has it evolved over the years?
Yeah, I think, see, firstly, you need to have that digital mindset, right? I have spaces. I need to know everything that I've got in my space from an inventory point of view, my floor plans, how many buildings do I have, where are all the locations, how much am I paying per square foot, etc. So that's the first thing that you digitize, or what we call you onboard, right, into the system. Once you have that in front of you, then you start looking at allocation, right? What percentage of my space is flex versus what percentage of my space is fixed? You'll be surprised that even governments that we deal with around the world, they also have moved to a flex model. I have
Hmm.
customers who have 50, 60 locations around the world. They are completely flex. Nobody has fixed spaces anymore. You
Wow.
come to office, you need it, you book it, right?
Hmm.
That's where the market's moving towards. But anyway, the first step is identifying if I have any fixed and how much is flex, etc. So that's
Hmm.
the third thing is that who is it allocated to, right? Certain departments I still believe require fixed spaces, like legal, right,
Hmm.
or finance. They have paperwork, they have, sort of, they need to be in a slightly more private area because there's a lot of material, a lot of confidentiality. So they tend to be more in the fixed spaces. The rest of the business, everybody is in flex, right?
Hmm.
And so we have obviously the back end, that space management software that lets you do all of this. But at the same time, we have a front end which the employees use, where I can, decide, all right, I get up in the morning and I say, well, where am I going to work from? Which office? Let me see where my colleagues are so I can maximize my day. I'll get myself a desk. I'll book, I've got 3 meetings, so I need rooms for all three. I have a couple of visitors coming in. I want to see what food options are there. I plan my day out using our software, or I could plan my week or month out, and I'm all set. I'm ready to get to work. That's the new era of how people are thinking about workplaces and workspaces. And from our standpoint, we have built the entire software platform to help the company manage their spaces better and the employee side. Now, one
Hmm.
thing that has changed is that the cost of sensors and devices is coming down.
Hmm.
And so we are connecting back to almost 120 such. We've integrated with 120 such companies where we're getting real time data. So when I look at space, I can look at, okay, what space I have, but I can also in real time look at what's the utilization. Our software will tell them that, okay, based on utilization, if you want to give up a floor, the fourth floor of X building honestly is not used. You
Hmm.
can easily move those people to the third floor and you still will be okay, right?
Hmm.
Our AI software gives them those recommendations on what they should be doing with their spaces, right? That helps them save tons of money. And obviously, the employees that work in hybrid get all the flexibility in a transparent manner. And that's very important to them. I can tell you that, if you tell somebody that if somebody's working in hybrid and they come and then they're in some zone where they don't know anybody and their colleagues haven't come, then all they do is they sit inside a room and they're
Hmm.
on video calls like this. That's a
Hmm.
problem for them. That experience is terrible.
Got it. So I clearly see there are two use cases primarily. One is facility space management, and the other one is employee experience, how they want to utilize the space. um, and you mentioned about sensors, so that means there is real time data that you are also capturing. So primarily you are giving dashboards to the management to ensure that the spaces are utilized efficiently and make decisions based on them. However, is this something that, because the way I would imagine, this is a decision that they would take once in a quarter or something of that sort, right? I mean, because you make decisions and then you move on. You do not make changes every day. Am I right? Or
So, yeah. So, Ravi, what's happening right now is, that on the employee side, they use it every day,
got it?
right?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
get that. Yeah.
And we get a sense of, so for example, last quarter, there were 3 million bookings or employee transactions that were done on the platform, right? On basically on a, so if I look at a 12-month window, right?
Hmm.
So there were 3 million. This quarter, it's already gone up to 4 million. So the utilization, because people are working in hybrid, and now I think they've started to come back, right?
Right.
Even though it's not as much as the pre-pandemic level, but people definitely have started to come back. And as they are coming back, they're using it every day, right?
Mm.
So that's the daily utilization piece. On the
Right.
management side, you see, they need key information. Given traffic patterns, they need to plan for food, right? Given traffic patterns, they need to plan for transportation. They
Traffic,
need to
traffic,
plan.
traffic patterns at the workplace. You mean?
I mean, footfall. So how many people are getting
Ah,
back?
got it.
Yeah.
Got it. Got
So it kind of gives them a sense of what facilities do I need, right? Because honestly, if you plan facilities for 1,000 people and only 200 are showing up,
it.
right? So data becomes super critical, right?
Right.
Data becomes super critical, and of course, from a moves, add, changes perspective, it varies by industry, Ravi. In some industries, attrition can be as high as 20-30%, right?
Mm.
So the software will also help you say, okay, I've got like 200 people left and 300 are joining. Where do I put them, right?
Mm.
And so our software will help them do the allocation for people as well.
Mm.
um, and so that's why it's not maybe a daily thing on the back end, but certainly weekly.
Got it.
Yeah.
Got it. And how do you roll this out if you have to implement this software into a new facility? Is this something that you do? Do you scan the environment, scan the interiors and stuff like that, or how does it work out, the rolling out of your product?
Yeah, so I think there are two ways that we do it, Ravi. The first is that up until now, it's been our project team. They will align with the customer. We understand their flow plans. We understand how many employees they have, which departments, etc. And we get into a full blown scale deployment. We take their flow plans, convert them into 3D, understand what sensors they have or devices they have for data.
Mm.
That's how we've done it so far. What we are doing is moving forward is something very disruptive, right?
Mm-hmm.
We learned so much over the last 5-6 years. We work with very large companies, for example, Walmart and others, right?
Mm.
Mondelez and many other such large customers. And so what we've done is we partnered with Microsoft, right? And now we've made our software available inside of Microsoft Teams. Okay.
Mm.
In this model, the customer can go online, to basically Microsoft, can order our software and can start using it and actually deploy it on their own, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's the first such software that really makes it easy for you to self deploy,
I
because
see.
our belief is that the today almost anybody I meet, be it
Mm.
they have 500 people in their company or 1,000 or 100,000, they all need software like this. And so we have created a scale model where we're saying anybody should be able to make a smart workplace, a digital workplace by themselves without support from our end.
Mm.
We have rolled it out. It rolled out about 60 days ago. And look, we've, needless to say, the traction has been tremendous. We took all the knowledge on integrations and we've now made it out of the box available, so you can do your integration on your own. You can
Mm.
upload your floor plans on your own. You can assign spaces to people. The app is anyway inside Teams, so you don't need to download another app. So there are
Nice.
really two ways we do it. The second way is new, it's disruptive, but it's helping us with scale. Ravi, one of the things I want to mention is that, talking about scale and B2B and SaaS, right? Sitting right here, we have been able to deploy our software in about 100 cities in the world, in
Wow.
30 countries, right?
Wow. That's
Um, so yeah, absolutely. And so you have the ability to scale to a great extent, but in the past, it was constrained by physical resources, as in
mm.
people getting involved. In the new
Yes.
world, honestly, client could do full self deployment on their own,
Lovely.
um, which for the world of workplaces is quite unique. And we believe that we'll keep making it better. Obviously, we're learning every day. Customers saying,
Yeah.
"Oh, I tried to do this, but I encountered this issue." Okay, So we're in that phase. But over the next 6 months, absolutely. I mean, we will make the world of digital workplaces super easy.
So very very curious. You mentioned Teams, Microsoft Teams. That is
Yeah,
where the integration is happening.
correct. So instead of using my app, which is called Jumpree, a customer who already uses Teams, when they type Jumpree there, they'll be able to see our app. They can start using it.
Wow. So I did not know about this use case with Teams. Okay. So Teams, is it like has it opened up a marketplace where other players like yours could deploy the software and then it launches along with Teams? Like, are you the only one, or is there a marketplace of sorts?
No, there are other companies as well. I mean, they've got a whole bunch of companies. But having said that, our software is like fully embedded inside. So it's not launching our app. It's literally sitting inside of Teams. You just search for it and start using it, right? And
So,
look, it took us.
it's hard, it's very unconventional, no, because it is very disruptive in a lot of ways, because this is not like a marketplace, this is not like a distribution model that others follow. How did you crack this, like, because Teams is meant for a completely different use case and
Yeah.
yours
Yeah.
is different uses. How did you handshake?
No, so I think, the philosophy is the same. I think Microsoft's done a absolutely phenomenal job with Teams. If you think of productivity, right? Productivity is a combination of what they do, but
Got
what
it.
they're doing is they're looking at other unique, innovative softwares that can be put onto Teams, very can help an employee drive productivity. So I'll give you an example,
Got
right?
it. Got it.
In
Got it.
Teams, you already have chat, you have a calendar. Now we have something called meeting room booking. If
Right.
I'm trying to book a meeting, my natural way of working is I'll go on chat. I'll
Got it.
ask the other person, hey, Ravi, let's catch up. And you say, all right, let's meet at 4 o'clock.
Right.
I'll go on the Jumpree app. I'll book a room. It'll automatically update the calendar in which you'll get the invite, I'll get the invite. Natural flow. So rather than having
Mm.
two separate applications do it, it comes together beautifully inside of Teams. So we work with the Microsoft, sort of product management team.
Mm.
That was great experience. So now we're live, and we're already seeing, we have a very large bank in the US that has signed up with us, and they are going live. We have customers in Australia and Singapore and India and others. So it's been 60 days, but great traction. And this is the new world, Ravi. This is
Mm.
the world of IoT, and spaces has to be simplified, and that's the journey that we are on.
Nice, nice. Fantastic. Let's now talk about the business model. You mentioned, yeah. So this is a great. You don't have to deploy locally. You can actually roll it out internationally. Uh, but how do you sell? What's the value prop that you sell? What's the ROI in terms of, what's your sales pitch like? Is it about the number of is it about driving efficiency, or you actually giving them ROIs in terms of number of revenues being saved? What's the
Yeah.
pitch like for you, and how is the pricing model for your products?
Yeah. So absolutely right. So Ravi, first thing fundamental is the ROI is easy. 1 square foot in New York is expensive.
Got
The same square foot in Singapore is even more expensive, and in
it.
Mumbai and many cities. So space is very costly, right? One meeting room in a large city could cost you up to 30, 40,000 US dollars a year just in rental and maintenance and other things, right?
Got it.
And amortizing whatever equipment you have. So if you can help a company save space, right?
Mm.
That is, they don't renew the next lease that they have, or they don't go take another office when they add more people. I think that's where the ROI is, right? And we focus a lot on the ROI to show them what the savings could be. And we have enough data, Ravi. I mean, we do 4 million employee transactions, right? And we have so many customers around the world, etc. So we have data that shows that genuinely you can save space. So that's the first thing, right? The second is, I think, in terms of employee experience, honestly, Ravi, working in a hybrid world without transparency and software is going to be a nightmare,
Mm.
right? You show up to work, you don't have space, you come in, you don't have your colleagues that you work with, you can't get a room, people book rooms, don't show up, it never gets released. So I think the employee side, to make them productive in a hybrid world, is super critical. But these are the two things that we typically drive in terms of you know. The third thing that they look for is who else has done it,
Mm-hmm.
right? And one of the things we've been very fortunate with is just the cream of the crop, right? We have hundreds of very, very large companies in the world that use our software, and the utilization is high. We track adoption very closely because we want to make sure people are using this software. So there are a lot of good reference case studies, etc.
Mm-hmm.
The third is we let them try it out. My belief always is give it to them, let them check it out, let them do a POC, and many of them will obviously do a site visit or talk to our customers. But these are the main three or four things that go in. Pricing is subscription based. You
Mm-hmm.
pay for per employee per year. And I think that kind of gives them a sense of what their cost will be, because
Mm-hmm.
that's all in, right? Maintenance, cloud, software, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
pure subscription B2B SaaS model.
Right.
And look, it works. I think we're making it more transparent now by putting our price up on the web, which is
Mm.
on the Microsoft Store. They can go ahead and purchase it from there. So they know exactly how much it's going to cost them.
Got it. You mentioned about competition. How's the competition like when you entered 6 years ago, and this was pre-pandemic, right? So it seems like
Yeah.
you knew what was to happen to the world. It's like did you have a sense, or did you get lucky, or how was it?
No, honestly, even if the pandemic didn't happen, this phenomenon of people working in a flexible model would have happened because video is getting better,
Mm.
right? Our network's getting better.
Right.
And so the question is, why do I have to be physically sitting next to you, Ravi,
Yeah.
to have this, to
Exactly.
talk to PropTechBuzz, right?
Now we get
Um,
that. We get that. Just that pandemic accelerated this transition. All
oh,
right.
absolutely.
And
Pandemic accelerated, but also on the flip side, Ravi, a lot of competition came in, right? Because they saw the need for this opportunity. But I
mhm.
think a couple of things there. A, it's not an easy space to be in. You need to really understand spaces really well.
Got
You
it.
need to have all the integrations in place to sensors, Wi-Fi equipment, calendars. You need to think about security. And I think most important, you need to think about user adoption. It's not easy to
Mm.
build an app in B2B space where users use it every day
Mm.
and not complain about it, right? So I think a whole bunch of things that we focused on to keep ourselves competitive.
Right.
On the competitive landscape, lot of consolidation going on. So a
Mm.
lot of my competitors have consolidated, like there were 9 companies, they consolidated into one, right?
Into
So
one.
into one, yeah, we saw a lot of consolidation, crazy amount of consolidation that has happened. But I think in general, our philosophy was that we will build the whole end-to-end platform, right from space management to obviously the whole employee piece and the IoT layer for integrations. So far we don't feel the need to consolidate with everyone or with
Mm.
anyone. And fortunately, because we started early, we have very large customers, the largest
Mm.
bank in India, the largest bank in Asia. I mean, all Walmart, Fortune 1 company. So
Right.
they have we've learned a lot through that journey with them.
So, what kind of spaces are we talking about? Are we talking about only office spaces, or are we also talking about shop floors? Um, what
Yeah.
kind of
No,
spaces are we talking
so our focus is offices. So we work with enterprises and the real estate developers, right?
about?
So
Got
we
it.
have in India almost 50 to 60 million square feet covered through our technology in the real estate developer community, right?
Nice. So,
Yeah.
talking about adoption. So, before you ventured, was there any tech play at all? Like these customers, were they using any kind of tech to manage the spaces at all, or was this new for them to try out?
I think very small, Ravi, and frankly, you're absolutely right. Had the world not had COVID, it would have grown at a steady pace.
Mm.
Today, it is just exploded, right?
Mm.
So everybody feels the need to have technology. There are such good case studies and stories out there. So clearly, the CEO is saying, why am I not working like the other person where they are saving tons of money and their employees are happier?
Got it.
Why am I in a space where I don't have the tech?
Right.
So clearly, it's becoming a must have. Right, this is the new normal.
Got it. Do you also offer for evaluation of new spaces? Like if I need to acquire a space for my new office,
Mhm.
could I use your software, or it is only for operational after you have acquired it?
Yeah, it's mainly for after you've acquired it, but there's a step before that. Do I really need a new space? So the first thing that
Mm,
our software does through our demand and supply is, okay, I have this demand
right.
inside the business. Do I need another space? And
Mm,
because of all the data we give them and everything else, in many cases, and our software makes a recommendation. So the
right.
recommendation may be, hey man, you're already running out of space, you better get new space.
Got it.
Or the recommendation could be, oh, you need 50 more people. Well,
Right.
honestly, you don't need it, right?
Got it.
Basis data, algorithms, etc. So
So let's talk about the category. So is this a distinct category where the different players are doing the same thing, or are these players positioning themselves a little different than each other? Like, is there a
yeah,
category for this defined? Because I'm talking about this because I'm at PropTechBuzz, we are creating a platform to amplify startups in PropTech space, and I'm finding it hard how to slot you under which category. So could you help us understand this space?
yeah. So we are absolutely in two categories. One is called tenant experience, which is on the
Mm,
real estate side, and then there is the digital workplace, which is very clear on the enterprise side. Um, Within the category, there are point players. So there'll be somebody who'll only do visitor management, just as an example.
got it.
There'll be somebody who'll only do a food app, right?
Got it.
There's somebody who will do only parking. From our
Mm,
point of view, we are the platform. So we're the all in one. We integrate with the other vendors as required. Like we don't have a food app, but we have a partnership with SmartQ in India, right? And so we integrate with SmartQ. So from an employee point of view, when they look at our application, they will still see food. They'll click on it and go to it, except that that's the integration we built with SmartQ. The same way with Park Plus. And so ours is a platform with our own software, but at the same time, we integrate into other applications that, maybe country specific.
so you call yourself a platform, but do you sit on an infrastructure already within a given facility, or so you mentioned about other integrations, right? All other point solutions. Do you all bundle together neutrally? What's the framework like? What's the
Yeah.
ecosystem like?
No, so we are in the cloud, Ravi. Our infrastructure is all in the cloud. We sit on Microsoft Azure, and our goal is to obviously give the entire solution to the customer.
Right.
Different customer have different applications which we integrate to, but over time we've already done 120. So now when I go to the next customer, they'll say, oh, I use SmartQ for food, I've got Microsoft Outlook, I have Teams, I've got maybe Cisco devices, I've got HP in the Wi-Fi network. The good thing is that because of the experience, we say, okay, we have all the hooks that are available
Got it.
to be able to deliver you that application.
Got it. And for them to consider you for business, you need to come up with an API solution that easily integrates with their existing setup, right?
Yeah, we've done, so the way that we over last maybe 5 years, 5.5 years, we pre-integrated. We did the work with APIs and SDKs depending on what they have.
Right.
And so when we get into a customer scenario, in most cases, that integration already exists.
Got
Then
it.
it's a matter of deploying it and
Deploying.
installing it.
Got it. Got it. Yes, and since it's an auto install, auto deploy, I think it makes things much easier then. Cool. The my next question, since this is a business podcast and many aspiring entrepreneurs or your peers, maybe not as experienced as you, who listen to this podcast, if they were to learn from your go-to market and growth strategies,
Yeah.
could you give some of your secret sauce on what strategies have worked for you in the past for growth and scale? Is it through partnerships or promotions? That would be really really valuable.
Yeah. So I think the key is to, in today's world is to look at what is your cost of selling and what's your cost of deployment, right? Because you'll make a lot of go to market decisions that are based on that. I'm a firm believer that, and I saw a Gartner basically stat which just came out, which said that 85% of all B2B transactions will happen in a digital manner. That means people will consume B2B software by going online, right? And that's the way the market is moving away from, okay, a sales guy showing up and then there's a contract negotiation and we get into procurement and all those things. So fundamentally, you've got to be online. Even though you're a B2B business serving a large enterprise, the trend is to move in that direction, right?
So which is called as consumerization of enterprise, right?
Correct, exactly. So I think that's, if you can take your software and actually build it in a way that it is available online, I think it solves a big problem, because the cost per lead in that space is much lower,
Got it.
right? If you do great content creation, you do videos, you do organic marketing, you start getting the leads in. You've got to have great presence in terms of customer references, et cetera, et cetera. And your software has to be easy to use, install, and deploy. That's one big piece of go to market, which is not easy to get right. Ravi,
Mm.
honestly, this piece is hard. Once you get the ball rolling on this piece, then you can scale the hell out of your company, right? You can sell in any part of the world, in any space, in any language. Um, that is that's the way that I would encourage every founder to go in, because
But it
then
will
you have
take
the
time.
other one.
But it needs patience, right? Because content marketing and getting your word out and positioning yourself amongst a crowded marketplace is hard.
It's very hard, Ravi. And so in the beginning, like the approach we took was, we targeted. We said, listen, we want to not go after 5,000 customers. We want to go after a few hundred, right? But they should be lighthouse. They should be the best names in the industry, right? Because
Mm.
once you get them, you can then leverage on your experience and the fact that you've done them, and then scale it through a different go to market model, right? That's how we transitioned. I don't know the wrong or right answer, but I can tell you that I've seen over the last maybe 4 months or 5 months since we've gone online and we've been heavily using organic, that this is a it's a significant disruptor. You could be, you know and honestly, we're getting leads from Spain and Argentina and Canada and of course the US and Europe and any and everywhere. um, and obviously that's great. That means that people are viewing you from all over the world, and the cost of that is nothing, right, relative to you just catering with a large sales team and kind of doing those different things. Um, so that's really from a go to market perspective how I feel this business will evolve.
Mm.
uh, yeah, and that's probably the only way also to be profitable, right? Because
Right.
if you can get that right and you can focus on your gross margin and get that to a certain level, and your cost per lead is smaller, your conversion rates are higher,
Right.
your retention rate or your net dollar retention rate is higher, that's where you really become a B2B SaaS business
Right.
with a goal on, yes, you can, you know, be cash generating as opposed to burning every month,
Right.
which is not what in today's day and age investors want, right?
Exactly. Talking about cash burning, what has been your fundraising story till now? So how has the 6 year journey been in terms of fundraise?
So look, we did a Series A 3.5 years ago,
Hmm.
and we use that to go global, and we sustain our business on our customers and our revenue. And
Nice.
I think it's the best way to grow business, to be honest with you. It's the only way to be long term sustainable, because there will be funding winters and there will be all kinds of challenges that are out there.
Right.
But clearly, you need to focus on getting the business fundamentals right. I think everything else gets taken care of.
Got it. Business fundamentals right would mean becoming capital efficient in terms of how much you want to burn and how much you want to be sustainable, right?
Yeah, and Ravi, you got to focus on automation. If you can automate everything in your business, right from lead generation to selling to purchasing, and just automate every little piece in your business, that's when you can be capital efficient if you want to be able to sell globally.
Mm,
Because you've got to keep an eye out on cost.
got it. It's like a leaking bucket. So you keep automating any transition that needs manual intervention, right?
Yeah, and you look at it every week. You
Every-
don't do monthly reviews, you do weekly reviews to see has any leak got created, because you're moving so fast, you're
Mm,
moving in a very dynamic manner, and you have to make sure that bet on things. Like, I'll be honest with you, we used to take part in events, right?
mm,
We used to go to events and we used to show up everywhere. Honestly, on digital we get much better leads.
mm.
Yeah, rather than showing up and running after somebody and exchanging your name card. I mean, I personally did a lot of that. I think it's sometimes good, maybe for some brand building,
Right.
but don't go there expecting you're going to show up with 20 opportunities, and feel great about it.
That's a very interesting point. So I have asked this to so many startup founders. What's the ROI of going to trade fairs and conferences? Okay, do
No
you do
ROI.
you so when you say digital, how do relevant people come to it? It's mostly, as you mentioned, it's all about organic traffic and people trying out themselves. Are there any procurement? So I specifically want to ask you how people buy such technology or software. Like every big names, they usually have some kind of a budget that they want to deploy in terms of technology innovation or upgradation and stuff like that. And then do they open up for procurement where people like you and vendors like you apply for it? How does the buying behavior of your customers are, Dinesh? Oh, I see Dinesh frozen at my end. I do not know. Hi, Dinesh. Hmm. So we are in some sort of a technical situation here. Dinesh, are you back?
Yep, I'm right here. I don't know what happened. No worries.
But did you get my question?
No, you'll have to repeat it, Ravi. I don't know where I lost you. Yeah.
Yeah, no. So what I meant was, this is a question that I often ask. You mentioned that ROI of conferences is negative. Then what is the kind of buying behavior? Because there are the large companies who usually go to conferences. They have a budget. They have an annual budget for technology upgradation and stuff like that, right? So they
Yeah.
want to innovate. They go to these conferences and trade fairs and see who the vendors are. Or some people, they have some procurement. They open for procurement and vendors sign up for RFPs and stuff like that. So what kind of models or buying behaviors have you seen of your target customers?
Yeah, so this is the point I was making, Ravi, that look, trade shows are great to show your product, to get feedback, and to also see what everybody else is doing. But reality is that's not where a handshake happens or business gets closed, right? At the end of the day, everybody now, whatever they see, the tendency is they will go online, do their research, check out who's doing what, and if they need information they will connect with you, or if you send them relevant information that may be useful for them, or do podcast, or do videos and circulate them, use LinkedIn. But I think those are much more from an ROI perspective. That's where I feel you get the leads. When it
Mm,
comes to trade shows, is mainly brand building. Okay, to show up, we are there,
right.
uh, to get some feedback for your product team, and also to get a sense of what everybody else is doing. Which, by the way, you can also look at their website and get a sense of, right? So,
Got it. Yeah, trade shows mostly look at, okay, if you are in a trade show, then your risk is lower, okay, because you can afford to have a booth in a trade show or something of that sort. So it just give you a little more reputation. um, Excellent. So as you mentioned in the beginning, every startup, every venture building is a roller coaster ride. It has its highs and lows. So since the business podcast, other listeners, other potential founders are listening to this, do you want to shed some light on what have been your biggest highs in this journey of 6 years or so, and what are the potential lows and the challenges that you had to face, and how did you overcome them?
Yeah, I think Ravi, the high has been the team. I have a co-founder, Anushka. I've got another one, Prithvi, and my CFO, Ashish, and my head of engineering, Teja, and everybody. I think the the ability to build a team that is so passionate about the business. I think they are more passionate than I am about the business. Right? They really live and breathe that every day. We've got teams in the US, in Australia, Singapore, India. I think that's been the high, right? When we do get together and you're really sometimes down and out, and they're like, "Don't worry, let's find a way and a solution." And you always look back and you say that, okay, this is what it takes to build a great startup. So focus on the team, I think, is huge. So that's the high. Of course, when a customer gives you recognition and say, "Hey, I love your software," or when you see utilization saying that the utilization is going up, that's great. On the lows, I think it's like most businesses. I mean, just managing cash flows, yeah, collecting money. Collections get delayed, and so you have to deal with all those different things. If you're a business that gets heavily funded and you're burning cash like
Mm,
many of the guys have been doing, and
right.
you know where they landed up, right? I think those are easier business models. Running business on your own is a harder thing,
Mm,
but I think it's a far more solid thing, right? But
solid.
along the way there will be challenges. Those are the
Right.
lows that you have to deal with, but you have to very quickly pivot and get up and figure out how to solve those particular situations that are there. And I would say right now, if you look at it from the industry point of view, luckily we saw the challenge last year in April. We knew that this next 18 months, 2 years are going to be challenging, and so optimizing cost, retaining customers, making sure that you get your revenue model sorted out,
Mm,
um, was the most important thing. If you saw that late, if you saw
mm,
that only this year as an example,
yeah.
then I wish those companies success.
Yeah, there were founders who did not see it. They had to be educated by their investors with in the form of memos sending out to become capital efficient and profitable. So yeah, I think your wisdom comes from your experience. So good, excellent. My last question here is, so where do you see yourself from now? So you are, so
Yeah.
today it's 6 years, 7 years in the business. Where do you see your next year or two from here?
Yeah, so I think, Ravi, it's all about scale. We last year really doubled down on getting our digital platform ready, and we've got obviously hundreds of large customers, but now in the scale model, we want to take that to thousands of customers. And I think we're probably 90 days into launch of that digital platform. We're going to keep on, altering it, modifying it, pivoting, but I'm pretty confident we'll get it right. We'll get it right, and we are disruptors. So, I mean, some of my competitors have been in this business for 20 years, 22
Mm.
years. I think that's what we want to disrupt, and the market opportunity is there. No shortage of large spaces that are inefficient that need technology. So it's a big market.
Any potential opportunities with Cisco, your past company? They have big spaces to manage, no?
Yeah, Ravi, I think we partner with everybody. So we partner with the large technology companies, and our goal is very simple. We are a platform, but we integrate with pretty much every big tech. I mean, most of my customers use Microsoft, Cisco, HP, and all these companies. So we have anyway got to do work with them. So,
Excellent. Well, this brings us to the end of a very thought-provoking conversation with Dinesh. Dinesh, thank you so much for taking time out on a weekday and sharing with us your wealth of knowledge and wisdom.
thank you, Ravi. Love the questions, and I wish success to all the founders that are listening in. It's a journey I share with them, so I always wish them the best. But thank you so much for organizing this.
Thanks, Dinesh. See you around. Bye
Thanks.
bye.